What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this video. My name is Emilio Maingi, and in this video we'll be talking about encapsulation. If you have been following along with my previous tutorials, we have talked a lot about object-oriented programming in Python, and we have talked about classes, definition of classes, properties and methods, constructors, and a lot more. So in this video I want us to talk about how we can secure our properties, how we can secure our methods. Now we can do this using encapsulation, which is restricting access to methods and variables in a class in order to prevent data from being modified by accident. Now, when I say restricting access to methods and variables, like for example here, we said that the variables that we define here, these are our properties. So sometimes we need to define like private properties that cannot be accessed by other classes. Like for example, I have another class here. Let's say class animal. Okay, just an example of another class animal. Now if we say here like user dot login, you'll find that we'll be able to access this, we'll be able to access the method login of the class user. But now with encapsulation we use like double underscores to represent encapsulation, or to make that data private to that class, making a certain attribute private to a certain class. So if we say we use double underscore before this login, we have made that method a private method. It cannot be called outside of this class. Or if we try to kind of like here, the way we are saying maingi.login, okay, that won't be possible. We can just save this and try. Here on my command prompt, I'll say let's run it. Let's run the class, and then you can see here it says user has no attribute login. First of all, it says that there's nothing like this. What if we use the double underscores just right there, where here, right there, we use the double underscore like that. Now let's save this and try to run the class and see what happens. Okay, it says it has no attribute, the user has no attribute login, but it is there, you see. So this is encapsulation. We are hiding this method from being utilized by other classes or methods. Although this object maingi is an instance of this class user, it cannot use private methods explicitly like this. It can't. So that's how we do encapsulation on methods. Now what about if we want to perform encapsulation on these on properties? Let's say a property like this ID. We want to make that ID a private property that cannot be accessed by objects or other classes. We also use the same method. You use a double underscore before that that name. Okay, so if we use a double underscore there, we have defined that this property my id as a private property. So what encapsulation actually means is that you are just declaring like private attributes to a certain class, and they cannot be utilized by another class outside of this class, or another method outside of this class, or an object of this method. Now let's try to, since you have now made the id a private, of course we don't want anybody to access the and change the id, because we are tracking the user using that id. Now here we say, remember to change here to my id. Let me just copy this, put it here, so that now with this, let us see if it doesn't have harm. You can see now we are using, it's this method gets string, it belongs to the class user, so it can utilize private attributes that are defined within that class. Now if we run this code like this, it will print out the id here as usual and as expected. Now how does encapsulation help you? How does it help you? It helps you to keep properties and methods, or rather attributes, of a class private, and to secure them from being changed by other classes or objects. Now if we try to like here we are printing let's comment this out and do something else. I want us to try and access this method outside of the class. Now let's use our second object here, Emilio, our second object. So we'll say, let's try to actually print. Let's try to print Emilio dot my id this one. So print Emilio dot my id. Now let's run it and see what happens. Okay, now we have a syntax error, missing parentheses in call to print. Okay, that's just it's telling me that I should have some parentheses there. Okay, let's run it again. Okay, and then what error do I have? Attribute error, user object as no attribute my id. You've seen that. So we cannot actually access private attributes from outside of the class. Remember, this object Emilio is outside of this class user. So if we try to access private attributes, it will cause an error, an attribute error. So now let's also define a private method, and so that you can see, guys, that using the private attributes inside of a class it does not cause harm, let's print out, actually let's remove this and print the string, okay. This time round it has printed and we've got our ID set properly. So I hope you get the difference and you understand it. So let's define another method, like let me think of something that we can define here. Let's use define a private method called login can't be private because we'll need to log in the user, and think of another method. Let's just say private method, okay. and every method it takes in self, okay. It takes in the self keyword. Now for the private method, we are going to do, let's just say let's just print something, do something, okay. Now we try to access the method from inside the class and outside of the class. So from outside of the class, it will be Emilia, which is an object of the class, then dot double underscore, let's just copy the method, so we are not passing anything, we're just calling the method. Let's try to do that and also see what happens. User has no attribute private method. You can see actually it's not that the private method is not there, it is there, but it is declared as a private method using double underscores. That's why we cannot access it from outside of the class. Now if we try to access it inside of this class user, now let's say for example, like inside this method getString, as we are getting the string, we access the private method, and so we'll say self dot private method. What do you expect this thing to do? We expect it to print, to say do something, and then also return our string here. So now let's save and run and see what happens. Oh, we forgot to remove this, still popping up some errors. Okay, you see, now calling the method inside of the class, anywhere inside of the class, it did what it's supposed to do, okay. It printed do something because we have called it inside of the class, but calling it outside of the class, like what we did here, it popped up an error because we cannot access a private attribute of the class user, okay. So I hope you guys are understanding. I hope you are getting an understanding of of encapsulation. It's a very important aspect, and as you are developing programs, as you are writing programs, you will be utilizing encapsulation very much to perform this so-called protection of data from being changed by other objects. Okay, like we don't want our ID to be changed by anyone or anything. We want to keep our ID constant, and it can only be modified inside of the class. With that kind of encapsulation, you prevent other classes and other objects from tampering with the attribute. So I hope you have understood, and let's meet in the next video where we'll be talking about inheritance. Actually, we'll be talking about inheritance. So now, don't forget to subscribe, guys. Again, subscribe. I know this is helping you, so if you are watching up to this far, I know it is helping you. I know you have understood a lot, and so don't forget to subscribe, and click on the notification bell so that you can receive videos as I produce them. So let's meet in the next video.